This is a factual photo story about my journey through life, about the abuse that turned me into a painfully shy child. It's also about my struggle to fit into the real world, to recover from shyness, to take on an adult role, and to survive family conflicts. Once I understand the cause of abusive behavior, I find it hard to blame someone. I now live here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, a city with a population of about 1.5 million people. These are my mugshots, taken over a 50-year period. We can see the impact of the abuse in my face. I did have times when life went better and moments when I smiled. But I was career-focused, so I struggled hard to learn and adapt to a variety of different jobs. After I retired, the pressure was off and I had finished working on recovery. So the last photo suggests that this story has a happy ending. This video will deal with facts. Sometimes the photos show what happened, and sometimes the photos will only have a partial connection to the narration. This photobiography will help us all better understand human behavior and how the real world works. We start back in the 1930s, 140 kilometers away from here, at Drumheller. This is the Drumheller Valley. Here's downtown Drumheller during the 1930s. It is the town where I was born. This is Mum. During the 1930s, she worked as a housekeeper in Drumheller and Calgary. Mum is in the center. It is her sister and cousin that are wearing the hats. Mum also worked at a lodge in the mountains. On the right, we see she labeled herself as Gladys. Mum with her friends at a hot pool. Mum's in the center. Meanwhile, during the 1930s, Dad worked at a variety of jobs and was able to save a fair amount of money. Mum had dreamed up a life plan. She wanted to take regular photos to show how our family grew and changed. She wanted to keep photo albums and baby books for each child, and she also hoped to have a daughter. After knowing each other for 6 years, in 1939, Mum and Dad got married. Mum complained that in this wedding photograph, Dad should have shown his teeth. At the time, I failed to notice Mum's teeth. About 4 years later, Dad's teeth look outstanding. Mum, not so much. And that's Wayne, their first child. About 10 years after that, Mum had this formal photograph taken. She was quite open and accepting of her teeth problem. Soon after this, she got dentures. For Mum, appearances were important. She liked to dress Wayne and myself up in matching outfits and then take a photo. Wayne is 3 years older. Here we are again with matching outfits. We are with Aunt Lila and Jean at their farm. Again, we are properly posed and properly dressed. Mum put a lot of thought into some of her photographs. In 1953, Bruce made his presence known. Wayne and myself wear matching suits. Dad looks up to the challenge. It took about a year before I realized that Bruce was somebody to play with. Mum caught on right away and had him posing for photographs. She took this photo as well. In 1956, Mum had a dream come true when we adopted a daughter. Here, Mum and Doreen wear matching dresses. Unfortunately, there was another side to the story. Mary was also a big part of Mum's life. Mary lived with Mum's family. She was a spinster school teacher, wore a wig, and drove an Oldsmobile. She had a club foot, so her father carried her to school every day. She may have been abused or bullied because she had negative beliefs about boys. She believed that boys should be raised with shame and tough discipline. When a group of us were working on family history, Mum said that she admired Mary, and she called her a grand old lady. So Mum bought into Mary's beliefs. She felt there was a strong need to force boys to be properly behaved. Believing in someone with strong beliefs is not uncommon. Just look at Trump, with his millions of followers. The Browns grew up on this farm. At first they lived in the homestead shack on the left, and later they lived in the house on the right. This is the 5 Brown family children. Here's the same group later on in life. Here they are as young adults. Some got married, so at this time, altogether, they had 5 children. I was the youngest. So it was on my birthday that the family gathered at our place for photographs. This is my cousin and myself. I refused to give up my stick. So Mom had to take a second photo. I still refused to give up my stick. Mom only had one photograph done of all 5 young children. They were all boys. Unfortunately, Wayne was crying, and that distracted Dennis. I was looking for my stick. Wayne and myself ruined this important photograph. Here are the same 5 boys about 20 years later. No doubt, Mom was embarrassed and upset. The photo shows me with a dirty stick, looking badly behaved, defiant, disobedient, and poorly dressed. So Mom planned a new photo, bought new clothes, and then had a new photo taken to set the record straight. The new photo made it clear that Mom was a strict, competent mother raising a properly dressed, properly behaved boy. I was gradually learning about life with Mom. In my baby book, Mom kept a record about the gathering that happened on my first birthday. She also kept a record of my health, so in my first year, I was not sick at all. The last page shows that I got a serious childhood illness every year, including in grade 1. That winter, we moved to Vancouver. Mom liked the scenery and the flowers, so Dad tried to find a suitable job there. Mom notes that during these times, her cousins, Dorothy and Anna, joined us, so we had a full car when we went for a drive to explore the Vancouver area. Dad might have failed to properly explain to Mom that they couldn't afford to waste money. As it turned out, Dad couldn't find worthwhile work. He later said that in the back of his mind, he wanted to start a chicken hatchery in Drumheller. So I left beautiful Vancouver, the city by the mountains, and returned to Drumheller. This is the Drumheller Valley, well known for its badlands and coal mining. This is West Drumheller from the air. The arrow shows where we lived. Looking to the right, you can see the 2 large schools are nearby and the river. Going to the left, the railway tracks, and then the badlands. We moved into a building that could be converted into a hatchery. This is what the basement looked like 50 years later. Dad had to clean out the basement. Dad needed money, so he went to the banks in town in an effort to get a loan. He went to all the banks, but they all refused to give him a loan. At the start, we lived in the left third of the hatchery building. After Dad failed to get a loan, he was under crippling pressure. He had to earn money, fix the place up, plan for the future, deal with his wife, and feed the kids. We were all using up one big room, so our noise added to the pressure. I recall Mom and Dad's discussion. 2 boys making noise was a problem. Mom suggested she give us a really good, long, hard spanking. So that's what happened. In the 1940s, hard spankings were seen as normal. Wayne was the first to make noise. He was spanked long and hard. Unfortunately, he probably didn't know why. My experience was different because I knew what was coming. I tried hard to behave myself, to keep myself under control. Eventually, I made noise and got spanked. The damage to me wasn't from the spanking. It was from the strong message to keep quiet and behave myself. So I lived with a lot of fear, trying hard to control my emotions. Since I was too scared to express my fear, it was internalized, buried. I became a painfully shy child. Mom described my childhood in a 1989 speech she made.
Brian, he was quiet, he played quiet, he hardly noise around the room.
I can recall this early abusive experience because I had to mull it a lot as I tried to find a way to avoid getting spanked. That kind of recalling leads to overlearning and keeps the memory strong. Since I was living with a lot of fear, I didn't play like a normal child. Play is known as preparation for life. The benefits are vital to a child's development, but I experienced fearful play, so I didn't learn much. Here, Mom gets Wayne to laugh. but I didn't respond. For most of my life, when given instructions, I struggled to hear and I tended to freeze with fear. Later, as an adult, learning a new job was difficult due to fear and learning blocks. In the summer, Dad worked as a hill adjuster, so was able to buy these second-hand incubators. The hatchery gradually became a success. We lived a good lifestyle. Our entire family needs to be grateful for what we had. As a mature baby, I messed the bed. Mom got me in the bathtub with the mess and turned it into a big deal. I was full of shame. This is the coffee gang. During the week, they had coffee every morning at 10 a.m. I recall Mom telling them about my shameful activity. They laughed. That increased my tendency to feel shameful and shy. This is my grade 9 graduation photo. Shame clouded my mind, and it showed up in my face every time I had a bath or washed my hair. These photos show how I often felt. Some viewers won't see any problems here. To them, I look normal. But these photos make my predicament clearer. I'm not the sales type. I look introverted, maybe an accounting type, but my memory was bad. I had a foggy brain due to shame, buried feelings, tension, and a lack of quality sleep. Most jobs required early morning starts. My choices were limited, so I struggled with the mornings. One last abusive experience happened before I began grade 1. Dad lost his temper and spanked Wayne. And Wayne fought back. I saw and felt the danger. It was right there, right in front of me. So that was a powerful reminder to behave myself. This is Wayne, looking mischievous like Dennis the Menace. Wayne seemed to like getting me in trouble. Twice I got a spanking simply because I followed his lead. I have learned that I can't trust him. I do realize that as a young, timid, fearful child, I was always obedient. So I was the type of child others tend to pick on. Mom dressed us up, decorated our bikes, and put us in the Drumheller Parade. This is my first day of school, so Mom dressed me to look spiffy. When she wanted to take a photo, I felt awkward standing by myself in the middle of the sidewalk, so I asked to hang on to the fence. That made me feel a lot better. In the following year, Mom and Dad built a chicken float in our garage. In the morning, Dad tried to back it out, but he couldn't see. They had to tear a few openings in the float. Then he joined the parade as a really big chicken. This is a photo taken at school. School is where I worked hard and struggled to learn things. For me, learning was hard, so school was a serious business. Later, as an adult, my approach to work was also serious and tense. Outside of school, I desperately needed positive life experiences. Sports helped a lot. I had been a fearful child, so at this time, I still need to learn how to cope and adapt to life. This is our Little League baseball team. I was above average at sports, so did well. That helped me gain confidence. My Boy Scout experience was also important to my development. This is our whole troop. I'm in the bottom left corner. Here I am making pudding. Knowing how to make pudding is an important camping skill. There should have been a badge for making pudding. On this hike, I was lucky to have my camera and to be at the right place at the right time. In Scouts, I began to develop some leadership skills. But during these years, what helped my development most was my family experiences. The lady taking this photo couldn't get Wayne to show his face. She motioned a few times, trying to get all of our faces showing. So Wayne did move. I did make sure that my eyes are showing in the photograph. This is Mom, taken soon after she gave birth to Bruce. We were now living in a house right next to the hatchery. A bit later, Mom told her sister that the shame and tough discipline that Mary had promoted were old-fashioned ideas. So Bruce was treated better than Wayne and myself. Here I caught him in deep thought. This photo was taken with my new camera when I was almost 10 years old. Mom liked lawn ornaments, so she bought this bear. Here Bruce shows me he can ride a bear. Bruce soon became good at posing for photographs. I asked Bruce, "Show me your muscles." He did, and I laughed. When my friend Bob came over, I again asked, "Show me your muscles." We both laughed. The same thing happened when I asked Bruce to say aluminum. Bruce said something like aluminum. I laughed, and later Bob laughed. It isn't surprising that as an adult, Bruce tends to be entertaining. Here Bruce fell asleep on the table. On this day, I took a chance with Bruce. I showed him how to use my camera, then asked him to take a photo of me. This is the photo he took. At 3 years of age, his aim was perfect. His aim wasn't perfect, but it was adequate. This excellent quality photo was taken by Mom with her box camera. That's me taking a picture of Bruce. This was a risky activity. We were both lucky to not have any accidents. Unlike many others in the valley, we were lucky enough to go on vacation. We made use of a luggage rack. Here, Mom and Dad can be found a bit above the center of the photograph. They went to a number of hatchery conventions where speakers taught about running a hatchery. Mom and Dad learned a lot, so the hatchery did well. In 1956, we adopted a baby. Here, Dad is feeding Doreen, while Bruce is on the floor. Bruce is hanging on to Doreen, who is now almost 4 months. A cute photo of Doreen. Doreen became our new target for photographs. But Bruce was still able to grab my attention. Wayne helped Bruce learn how to fly airplanes. That's Dad in the background, walking towards the back door of our house. Wayne has probably explained to Bruce what he needs to do to be like Elvis Presley. Doreen and Bruce get along well. Doreen was a good target for photographs. During this time, our home was a safe, fun environment. It wasn't like it was when I was a preschooler. I no longer lived in fear. I got the stability and fairness that I desperately needed to develop as a person. Doreen also felt free to be creative. Bruce and Doreen were a lot of fun. Here they are with Wayne. I also had these kinds of experiences, which made me less shy. But at 14 years of age, my learning was awkward. It wasn't as effective as it would have been if it happened naturally in my preschool years. Doreen enjoyed life. She was a good subject for photographs. I can't help but compare her to Shirley Temple. Here Mom was preparing food, taking care of us. Most of the time, she was reasonable and dependable. Here Bruce shot me with a bean shooter. I shot him with my camera. Bruce loved it, so I was both a friend and a babysitter. At that time, Mom was probably confused. She knew spankings had damaged my behavior, so with Bruce she experimented. She tried nagging to get him to go to bed. For a while she nagged about 1 hour every night. After a lot of nagging, Bruce finally had a snack. He learned to ignore the nagging. Each night going to bed was a power struggle. At some point, Bruce developed a strong belief that he shouldn't have to go to bed on time. On this night, Bruce is having another snack. The nagging wasn't working, so Mom increased the nagging to 1.5 hours. At this point, Bruce might have felt that he was winning the battle. Soon, I had to babysit. I wasn't going to nag for 1.5 hours. So when I threatened Bruce that I would spank if he didn't go to bed, and then he didn't go, he got spanked. I had to become quite loud and forceful before Bruce would obey. I vaguely recall I was deliberate and he was stubborn. More than 60 years later, it appears that my actions had a deep impact on Bruce. As an older adult, Bruce valued Trump, but with me, he made wild and insulting guesses. While I was struggling with Bruce, Doreen came out of her bed. When I told her to go back to bed or I would spank, I raised my voice so that she knew I wasn't just nagging. She refused, so I spanked her. About 4 years ago, Doreen complained about my actions. Eventually, I realized that Bruce probably struggled because nagging gave him lots of time and lots of chances. My approach meant that he got one warning. After getting spanked, he could have felt angry, falsely believing that I was unfair and ruthless. This would be the motivation to make him insanely critical of my career struggles. Anyway, at the time, the spankings were quickly forgotten. We still seemed to be a happy family. Dreen does a good job of posing. She was a natural. Maybe she could become a model when she grows up. Dreen demonstrates that she has the talent for modeling clothing. Doing dishes would be a lot of fun. Meanwhile, Dad was busy building the hatchery business. We now lived right next to it, so he was often home. He had to buy a truck to haul garbage to the dump. Before the truck, he put the large barrels of garbage in the back seat of the car. You can see where the seat was ripped. Here, Dad is relaxing. Mom's using a number painting kit. To the right of her foot, you can see that on this night she was knitting. It appears this birthday party was for Bruce, organized by Mom. Mom continued to make a game out of taking photographs. Here she has an artsy-looking gang off to a party with their artsy gifts. Behind Mom, we see her king-sized number paintings and an animal watching this historical event. Mom is looking in a catalog for a black and white television. It had now become time for television. The printing press changed civilization. Now it was predicted that the TV would change our lifestyle. As we prepare for Christmas, our new TVs turned off. Television had a gradual impact. It wasn't as disruptive as the internet. This is what Bruce got for Christmas. The guns and flashy outfit helped prepare him for a job with the RCMP. Our neighbor Bob Brennan had experience in a gym class, so Bruce learned to take risks. At about this time, Bruce got a paper route so he could pay for his hobbies. Later on, Bruce bought a bike. This experience also helped him when he was with the RCMP in Penticton. I was able to buy a new and better camera. Taking photographs had become a habit. Meanwhile, Wayne kept busy building and flying airplanes. A group of models formed a club, then made use of Dad's truck to put a float in the parade. In the photo are Wayne, Tom, and Jim. Later, Wayne became a Fish and Wildlife Officer, Tom Sidden became an Honorable NP, and James Crothers became a captain in the Navy. Wayne got money to build his airplanes by working downtown on part-time jobs. I started building a model railway. I made spending money by building chicken boxes for Dad in the basement of the hatchery. I began my train layout by following instructions from a magazine. The roads for the town are marked on the plywood, but I soon enjoyed dreaming up a better, more interesting design. Here you can see I got more track laid. I did get to run the train before I messed up the track and roadbed. It looks like Wayne is reading up on how to fix a broken plane. This is Wayne's radio-controlled model. Here Wayne is testing his free flight plane. In the background is Bruce and the front of our house. Here I have moved my layout into my bedroom and made a lot of changes. Unfortunately, my new design required narrow 16-inch radius curves and cork roadbed was bent and loose, so the train would derail all the time. I love designing it, but most of the project was just hard work. These photos were taken as the layout was being completed. This project gave me hope of becoming an architect, but I had not yet discovered how strong my limitations were. I enjoyed creating the scenery. Inside the mountain is a box that contained a bridge kit. So I really liked the way the mine is located. And here's the finished bridge, with a train headed for the tunnel. This is the finished layout. My greatest satisfaction came from turning a unique design into a real layout. It was Mom that looked after us as children. Years later, she gave Wayne and myself a weekly allowance. Later, she gave us 25 cents for each H we got in our report card. That really motivated me. Mom didn't want me to take this photo, but I did, and now I'm using it. It is an important reminder that it was her work that made it easy for us to be active and to develop our interests. Mom got an organ, but Dreen eventually took singing lessons. As an adult, Dreen worked in a post office, and she became a hockey mom. We also got a cement patio. Here, a bunch of us with bikes are just running in circles. This is Wayne and Jean playing cards on New Year's Eve. Their celebration included ginger ale and cake. Just as a reminder, as a young boy, fear made me obedient. And a child who is always obedient tends to get picked on. As I got older, I could handle myself in conflicts with Wayne. At this age, in spite of extremely low self-esteem, I felt worthy enough to keep my eyes in the picture. Wayne and Jean try a prank call. This was good experience for Wayne, who later used innovative actions against poachers while he worked as a fish and wildlife officer. This kind of exciting challenge can be addictive. That's another reason why I still can't trust Wayne. I also did a variety of other projects. I worked to gain diverse experiences because I sensed future struggles when I entered the work world. At school and shop, others did woodwork, like a table. I did this tray with 2 wooden carvings. My preference was for art. Here I carved a wooden figure that is only 3 centimeters high. The go-kart was a simple, minimalist design. I didn't try to build one. This boat was carefully designed. It can be built using only 1 sheet of plywood, and it can fit into the trunk of a car. I named the boat Boo Boo, then spelt the name wrong. We did take it out and tried floating it in the slough and tried the river. When in the water, it was front heavy. So under the right conditions, I could be creative and have good ideas, but they were usually flawed. Behind Bruce, we see the fence that Dad got me to help him build. After that, he found a job for me working with a carpenter, hammering nails on a new granary on a farm. But I didn't like outdoor work, and I just didn't belong there. Now and then I tried doing a few artsy portraits. This is Bruce still doing his paper route. Later, when working in a photo studio, I was taking passport photos, so I had a chance to develop my talent. I felt awkward working with adults. I couldn't be engaging. But children were okay. I was comfortable with Dreen, and here she is holding my new handy transistor radio. During my high school years, I continued to work at developing talents. I created about a dozen oil paintings. I was disappointed in this painting. My mind wasn't clear, so I sensed a serious limit to my talent. This painting represents an inner conflict. Inside, I was always felt edgy. One summer, I volunteered to help coach a baseball team. Later, when I painted the team, due to my foggy memory, the painting was a disaster. So I covered it with blue paint, turned it into an abstract. Now it reflects how I often experience life, a foggy mind and feeling blue. In my second year of grade 12, I volunteered to coach the junior basketball team. I took a coaching clinic and studied basketball books from the library. We only had about 5 games that year, so I ran a lot of practices. In a way, we did well, and I did well, but I also knew I wasn't the friendly recreation type. One day after basketball practice in the nearby school, a couple of guys needed a ride home, so Dad agreed to let me borrow his car. On a gravel road, as we approached a sharp turn, I was too busy talking to glance to the left to see if I was safe. At the last second, I took the turn high. The car hit loose gravel and slid into the ditch. I bounced off a pole, clipped a railway sign, crossed the road, and landed in another ditch. Luckily, nobody was hurt. This is what was left of Dad's car. Dad took it well. Anyway, I learned the hard way that my mind can't multitask, and weaknesses can be a serious problem. Dad had a flaw. When he talked out loud on his favorite topic, he modeled poor thinking skills and certainty. That impacted our family. Luckily, I feared being wrong, so I worked hard to get things right and to keep an open mind. When egg prices dropped, Dad had to phase out the hatchery. In 1961, he bought and ran the Valley bus lines. Later, Dad bought these buses. Wayne worked for him for a while, and I helped a bit, but wasn't a very good bus driver. At the end of grade 12, my marks were too low for university entrance. So I looked for work in Calgary. Nothing sparked my interest. I took the bus to this grocery store and just looked at it from the outside. It would be like the 3-day job I had at a hardware store. Everything would be strange, embarrassing to learn, and boring. So I walked away and eventually went home. Over the years, many times I've had a strong feeling that I wasn't suitable for any job. It was time to leave Drumheller and the Badlands. It seemed like all my choices would require a huge struggle. Late in August, my supplemental exam result came back. It raised my average, so suddenly I had university entrance. I'd saved a little and could take out the student loans, but I needed money from Dad. When I asked him, to my surprise, he took $300 cash out of his pocket. As he gave it to me, he said, "That's all I've got." I'll never forget that. I was excited and extremely grateful. I was able to join the others who were going to university. Soon my family took me to school in Edmonton. At Christmas, I went home on this dayliner. This is the residence I stayed in at the University of Alberta. I knew university was a big gamble, but as a young, shy person, I had developed a lot. So now I hoped for another leap forward. If not, maybe some doors would open. We ate at tables that sat 12 students. I loved the mealtime conversations and made supportive friends. I worked to improve my skills, but the workload was overwhelming. Tension, shame, and a foggy brain continued to impact my sleep and learning ability. The counselor I saw helped me keep my feet on the ground, so when I flunked at the end of the year, I was able to land a job. Part 2 of this video looks at my adult years. It looks at my attempts to have a career. I like to operate at 60 to 90%. So it's disturbing when I found the best I could do was 10 to 50%. Other people in recovery got abused on a weekly or daily basis. So I was lucky to only have a handful of abusive experiences to recover from. I completed that almost 25 years ago. But I also still feel shameful and disturbed by the actions of my siblings who had all turned against me over 20 years ago. When I was struggling with my career, they became unhinged, irrational. I wasn't able to really relax until I understood why Adrena and Bruce seemed to overreact to my spankings when I babysat them as children. This sign on a neighbor's door says, "Family by appointment only." It hit the mark. In the next video, we'll learn how, in the late 1990s, my family pressured me to find decent work. But my problems were with pressure. I had already hit bottom and was seeing a counselor. My siblings made wild guesses and drew false, insulting conclusions. They weren't interested in facts. I moved to Edmonton. I continued to feel a lot of shame and was shattered. The key people in my life, my foundation, had all turned against me. Now that I'm retired, I'm gaining the ability to really enjoy life. I don't blame anyone. A lot of things happen in life that we can't control. Whether we like it or not, life is messy. This is Mom and Dad later in life. A special thanks to Mom. She chose to not destroy evidence of her mistakes, including the disturbing photographs. They are key to helping people understand what happened and to helping people understand human behavior so they can deal with reality as they make sense of the world. Above all, greater understandings help prevent damaging mistakes, which can result in future abuse. Mom would like that. If you found this video worthwhile, please like and share. You can also add a comment. Your comments will help me as I prepare part 2. Further insights can be gained by reading the notes for this video.